Hey everybody, it's me, Candor again, back after a little bit of a hiatus. Uh, Sorry about the gloves, but I've been doing a lot of work and my hands are kind of beat up, banged up, cut, bloodied, and blistered. And I really didn't think you wanted to look at that, so I decided to wear the gloves for your protection. Now, in the past, I've made mention about how I would like to include other things on this channel that are, not so much tool related, but other people can also enjoy, especially those that like crafting. So today, I would like to show off one item that I got last year for Christmas and have been using on and off for various projects. So let me introduce to you a portable, self-contained airbrush kit. Now, if anyone likes to craft or even do models, or someone that just wants to have the ability to have access to an airbrush but doesn't use one all the time, this might be something you might want to look into. And while this particular model doesn't seem to be available anymore from Amazon, there are many more from other vendors, some of which I like better than mine. So let's see what you can expect to get when you purchase one of these. Now, this isn't an unboxing, so nothing is going to be pristine, but inside the box, I got the following items. First, being the actual pump body itself, this blue thing. Now, these are most always rechargeable, so you can move these easily from one place to another. You don't have to have it hooked up to a compressor. You can carry it with you, and it's easy to maneuver. It comes with the charging cable, and mine came with 3 paint cups of various sizes in plastic and metal. So we have a larger plastic one, a medium plastic one, and we have the metal one up here, which is actually my favorite to use because it's so easy to keep clean. Now there's also a tiny wrench used for taking this apart, and also some brushes for some deep cleaning for any of those stubborn stuck-on paint residues that you might find after cleaning. And finally, we have the head assembly, which is actually the main part of the entire thing, and the head adapter, which is this little piece in between right here. The spray head is what they call a double action head, meaning that you have to press down to allow the air to flow, and then pull back to control the flow of the paint through the nozzle. So now that we know what it comes with, let's go over the basics of how this operates and then discuss the pros and cons of the unit. Now to operate it, you simply turn it on and you should be greeted by the sounds of the internal pump running. Pressing down on the trigger will start the airflow, but not the paint flow. To start the paint flowing, you have to pull back on the trigger. Now, the more you pull back, the more paint you let flow into the airstream. Now, this can also be controlled by the adjustment knob in the rear of the spray head. This allows for ultra-fine control of the paint flow. If we remove the spray nozzle, it'll expose the needle valve. Now, when the trigger is pulled back, let's see if we can actually get this in here. Now, as I said, when the trigger is pulled back, the needle retracts, allowing the paint to flow. By adjusting the knob in the rear, you can limit the travel distance of the needle valve, which will give you a little bit more precise control over the airflow. Now, anyone who uses an airbrush often notices that this is pretty much exactly how a very expensive one would work. So it has, a lot of features that are similar to a more advanced and more professional system. Now, according to the actual information that I got, it claims that this will work at about 25 psi. That's 1.7 bars, or about 172 kilopascals for the rest of the world. Now, if I understand it correctly, this is maybe a little low, but still close to what an average prosumer airbrush should produce, give or take a few, depending on the model and other factors. Now, on to the pros and cons of this. On the pro side, the price and performance. Now, I can honestly say that for the price I paid, it works very well. If I recall, it was around 55 US dollars, and was a bit surprised at just how well it actually did work. It is very portable, and it doesn't take too long to charge, I think about an hour and a half max, and it does last a while. The headpieces seem to be fairly industry standard connectors and might very well be swappable with other brands. Now, it has features you would expect to find in higher end models, again, such as the double action trigger and the adjustable needle valve. Now, for the cons. Really, the only one complaint that I have about this is the shape and the weight. Now, not that this is a very heavy unit, mind you, but it is a bit awkward to hold and use for extended periods of time. Now, however, some of the newer ones actually have a hose that can be attached right here, so you can actually leave the pump in one place and only have to have the spray head, and leaving you not have to carry this big, heavy, clunky spray bottle, or body, excuse me. Now, I don't see any reason why maybe I couldn't just buy a separate hose and attach it to mine, giving it the same functionality, seeing how it does seem to be somewhat kind of a standard size. So some of the newer ones that also come with different sized nozzles and needle valves. Now, I wish I had known about this before, since some of my bigger projects might not take so long to paint, had mine come with bigger needle valves for more flow and faster and heavier coverage. Now, most of what I use mine for is mostly for my 3D prints. One of the last things I used it for was a new shifter knob for my Mustang. Now, I reprinted another one for demonstration purposes, so let's take a look and see how this works. So here's a shifting knob that I've done for my car. It's not finished yet. It still needs to be sanded and primed and painted and everything. But what I've done is this is a lug nut for a Japanese car. I don't remember which brand it was, but it has the exact same thread pitch as my shifting knob in my vehicle. So what I've done is I've made this little adapter that I can screw onto here, and then I just take my shifter knob and I shove it in there like that, and then I can take my drill and I can stick it in to here, and that will allow me to spin this so that I can, if I can get it straight, so that I can sand it and make sanding a whole lot easier. Okay. That's still not perfect yet, but the next step is going to take care of all this, because what we're going to do is, before I can paint this with the airbrush, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use some of this UV resin, and I'm going to coat the entire surface in this, and that's going to fill in any of the little cracks and the lines that are in here. And then after I've done that and cured it, then I can come over and I can polish that and smooth it out a little bit more. And then if I still have a couple little spots, I can touch them up real quick. And the nice thing about the UV resin is that as long as you're using a very powerful UV lamp, this stuff will cure relatively quickly. So I don't have to spend hours and hours waiting for this resin to actually dry. Once the resin has been cured and I'm happy with the finish, then we can move on to the next step, which is what you've all been here to see, and that's the airbrush. I think you're going to really like the results when we're finished. Okay, so the next step before we can paint this is, as I said, we're going to coat this in resin. So, in order to do that, I've got it set up. This is just a little tile that I use just to, put things on so they don't get destroyed. So all I'm going to really need to do is, and I just need to be careful because of these holes right here. I don't want to get too much in those because I still have to insert the screws into that. But that's something later on. But all we're going to do is we're going to go in here and we are going to put a little bit of UV resin on. And I'm going to slowly kind of work it in on the top right here, just on the very, very, very top right now, just so we can fill in the layer lines on the very top and make them smooth. And we just work that down a little bit. One more little drop on top. And it doesn't really take a whole lot. Okay, so now the next step that I want to do real quick is I want to try and cure this before it starts to run all over the place and it fills in the cracks. And in order to do that, I have to move it over here to the next area where I have set up a little rotating stand . And two very high-powered UV lamps. I'm going to put our UV resin down, maybe a little bit thicker this time so we can spread it out. Just be careful not to be getting it in the holes where I'm going to be putting my screws. And we're just going to kind of just spread it around and fill in those layer lines. Okay, so now we are all set up and ready to go. So basically all I did is, here's the sprayer. I already have some paint in here. We're going to use red because it's more of a contrasting color. Should make it easier to see as I'm painting. It's already in the cup. It's already been thinned. So all I have to do now is just put the lid back on. And we're going to push the button. And now we should be able to start spraying. And there we have it. Now, did this take a little longer than if I had used, say, a higher end airbrush? Yeah, probably. Probably not by a whole lot, but yes. But is this supposed to be a full, complete replacement for one of those? Well, yes and no. Honestly, again, for somebody like me who doesn't really do a whole lot of painting from time to time, it just needs to do something very quick or maybe a touch-up or something small like this perhaps, this is an excellent choice. I really don't see an issue with it. It might be a little bit slower. It might be a little bit heavier than holding an actual spray gun in my hand or an airbrush head. But overall, the results are very nice. Again, it leaves a very nice clean. Now, I didn't do anything to this. This is just ST's, model paint. This is all this is. It's just enamel paint. I haven't done anything special to the paint. I haven't done anything special to the actual piece itself. It just lays it on nice and thin. It gives it a good coating. And as you can see, it might take a little while, but you're going to end up with really nice results. I mean, I don't know what more to say about it. I'm very happy for what I paid for this. With all that said, I've got a piece that all I need to do now is just let it dry, and it's pretty much almost good to go. I'll just have to put the screws in and then insert the lug nut into the bottom of it and glue it in place, and it would be ready to go and attached to my car at any moment. Now, the bottom line, I think it came out very well. Considering I used basically cheap model paint, and I'm not a professional that uses airbrushes a lot, but that is kind of the entire point here. I don't see the need to spend hundreds of dollars on expensive high-end parts for something I use occasionally, and I can store this in my drawer until it's needed. And it still produces results that are amazing, or at least I think so. Now, this is a good learning tool to get used to the basics, such as how to thin your paints, testing different paint types, spraying techniques, etc. Now, the uses for this are as endless as your imagination, really. Small crafting projects, miniatures, models, fingernails, cake decorating, heck, maybe even small touch-ups on your car's paint. Now, I wouldn't recommend using any metal flake or any type of similar paints, but otherwise, I don't see an issue. For a cheap way of airbrushing, something like this is worth the money. If you're someone that wants to dabble and get your feet wet trying to airbrush something, you might want to consider something like this. Mine, for the money, has turned out to be a very good investment, and I have not regretted it once. Now, normally I would leave a link in the video description of the item I have, but since I can't find this one anymore, the best I can do is link to one that is very similar to the one that I have. I will also leave a link to a kit that has everything but the compressor body and has a good selection of interchangeable parts. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I can just purchase that and swap my head out for the one listed and use my pump with it. So if anyone does have a sprayer already, this might be a nice upgrade for a real cheap price. Now, I hope this was something that you found interesting and useful, and maybe a good choice for Christmas presents for somebody you know. And with that, I would like to thank each and every one of my subscribers, new and old, for watching this video. So everyone, be good, stay safe, and I'll see you all again in the next video. And until next time, have really? Have a happy holiday season. Bye.